Welcome to the season of self-love, your daily dose of inspiration and encouragement. I'm your host, Nyomi, and I am thrilled to be here with you today. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery. Are you ready to elevate your mindset and embrace the power of self-love? Well, have you come to the right place? Each day we'll dive into topics that will empower and inspire you on your journey towards self-discovery and personal growth. Whether you're looking to cultivate healthy relationships, boost your confidence, or find balance in your life, this podcast is here to support your every step on the way. We believe that self-love is the foundation of living a fulfilled and joyful life. And together we explore practical tips, insightful interviews, and transformative stories that will leave you feeling inspired and motivated. So join me Monday through Friday as we embark on this daily adventure of self-love. Tune into the Season of Self-Love podcast to start your day on a positive note and discover the limitless potential within yourself. All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Today is Wednesday, February, 27th? 28th. No, it's February 28th, 2024. And welcome, my beautiful souls, to another enriching episode of the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi, and today we will be diving into an essential yet often overlooked aspect of our journey to success, and that's finding a balance and prioritizing self-care while pursuing dominance. And in our quest for achievement crucial is not to lose sight of our well-being. And also to help us to navigate through these waters, I'm thrilled that I have Dr. Will, who's going to be coming in later on in our episode to just give his insight on what all of this is all about to help us to achieve balancing. All right. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into this whole topic and we're going to dive deeper in the topic of finding balance. All right. It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And we'll be right back.
Hey, it's Dr. Will with the Washington Wellness Institute. Here at the Institute, we focus on so many different things, but our biggest focus is modernizing how we take mental illness into holistic wellness and making healing a lifestyle. So if you're interested in taking the next steps, whether it's a clinician, community member, or simply just a friend, sign up today for a 15-minute consultation. You won't regret it. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast with Nyomi Banks, where every day is a chance to embrace self-discovery and personal growth. Join Nyomi on a transformative journey, streaming exclusively on Spotify and Breaker. With daily episodes from Monday through Friday, podcast is your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and self-love. Dive deep into engaging conversations about self-care, mindfulness, and personal development. Nyomi brings you expert insights, practical tips, and uplifting stories from thought leaders in the field. Embark on a journey of self-discovery and unlock the power of self-love. Mark your calendars and tune in to the Season of Self-Love podcast, available every weekday on Spotify and Spreaker. Remember, it's time to prioritize yourself and embrace the beautiful season of self-love. Get inspired and join Nyomi Banks on the Season of Self-Love podcast.
All right, well, welcome back. It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. And today we're talking about prioritizing self-care while pursuing dominance. And before we get into the topic at hand, let's prepare our minds and our heart for today and let's explore this guided breathing exercise, all right? This great breathing exercise. All right, find a comfortable seated position with your back straight and your feet planted on the floor. Close your eyes and take a deep inhale in through your nose, filling your lungs with air. Now hold your breath for a moment, feeling the expansion in your chest and in your belly. Now slowly exhale through your mouth, releasing any tension or negativity with your breath. Take another deep breath in, imagining a sense of calmness and peace entering your body. Now hold that breath for a second, feeling a stillness within you. Now exhale, slowly letting go of any distractions or worries. Now repeat this breathing pattern for a few more cycles, focusing on the balance between inhaling and exhaling. Now as you continue breathing, I want you to visualize yourself finding a harmonious equilibrium within. Feel the steady rhythm of your breath anchoring you in the present moment. Now take one final deep breath in, acknowledging the balance that you have cultivated within yourself. Now exhale gently, carrying the sense of balance with you as you open your eyes. All right, thank you, my beautiful people. I hope that you truly enjoyed this, but I want to thank you all for joining me in that session. And if you're new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, this is something that we do every day, Monday through Friday. This is a part of our self-care routine, but also what it does is help ground us and center us to prepare ourselves for the topic for today. So you are open to receive whatever message that you are to receive today. And today our topic is prioritizing self-care while pursuing dominance, and finding that sweet spot between ambition and self-care can be very challenging. When I say challenging, I mean very challenging. It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of dominance, and sometimes at the expense of our own health and happiness. And I've faced moments where my drive for success overshadowed my need for self-care. And let's talk about the importance of maintaining a healthy balance and the consequences of neglecting our well-being. So for me, um, can I be honest? This is something that I've learned. This has been something that I've learned through my amazing mother. And I said in the beginning of the week that I was going to speak often about my mother, as right now, as I'm seeing a transition in her life that's going on with her, but also as she's going through this transitioning of her life, I'm also going through this transitioning of life with her. And I am so blessed that I've had this platform to not only learn on how to navigate through this transition with myself, but also with her, and having the having the compassion and the emotional intelligence to get through it, not only leading myself, but also to help guide her through it. I shared with you all before a couple of weeks ago or whatever that actually Christmas, the day after Christmas, my mom was diagnosed with dementia, and we saw signs of this going on for a while, and we never really wanted to put a name on it. You know, as we grew up in churches, don't claim it. Don't claim it. Don't claim it. Don't claim it. And I've always lived by that, not to claim it, not to claim the negativity or anything from that. And as we seen the things happening, different stuff happening, it did take a while for me, as well as my family, to truly be like, okay, this is what this is. So how can we help to maintain it? How can we do different things? You know, some people wanted to forget about it. Some people wanted to put it under the rug. Some people had different things and, from it. The thing is that there is no cure for it, first of all, at least that we know of. And it's all about working to what we have. If anything, that's what I'm learning, is to appreciate what we have and use what resources that I have right now. And in my resources that I have what learning the ability to understand with empathy, compassion, and self-love is. And for me, self-love helps me to be able to navigate all of those things, and also to help me to create these healthy balances and maintaining all of that with my mom. So in saying that, I've learned from her on how to be neglectful to my self-care, because I've watched her, very brilliant woman, very driven. I know, it ain't that I believe, I know this is who I got my drive from, to be very successful in my career in everything that I do. I've gotten that from her. But also what I got from her is that I didn't take time for self-care. Only just a few years ago that I understood what self-care and self-love was. And that's because I needed to have that. And what I believe is that I needed to have that to create all of this, this self-love, this having this intimate relationship with myself, because I knew that something like this will come, and that I need to be able to not only be able to have patience with myself and compassion with myself, but also with compassion for others, and especially in that mother and daughter dynamic. Because not only was it a lot of positive things that I learned from my mother, but there were also a lot of negative things that I learned from her. But I know better. Just because I know better doesn't mean that everyone, especially our parents, that they know better. And especially coming from, what do they call the baby boomer? Especially coming from the baby boomer age, and I am Gen X, there's a disconnect with it somehow with us. And now for me is bridging the gap between them all. And for me now is me learning how to prioritize my self-care, because within my self-care, in knowing that I have to take a moment for myself, knowing that I have to become mindfulness. And what I mean mindfulness is live in the moment and not live in the past and not live in the future, but enjoy this process right now and learn from what this process is. Does that make sense? So for me, it's able to learn how to prioritize and keep that in balance, to keep healthy for me. Because what I have understood and what I've learned is that what triggers my anxiety is me living in the past and me trying to get to the future, but not living in this moment to where I have more control of. Does that make sense? And so me knowing that, that gives me, is say, look, you have to take moments for yourself. You have to take care of you have to do these things to not only reprogram yourself, but also you have to speak into, you have to celebrate you. You have to take moments and time for you just to be still. One thing is I was taught not to be still. What I was taught, if you're not moving fast enough, you're not winning. If you're not jumping high enough, you're not winning. I was never taught to look at the lessons. Never. But now I do. So for me, I could tell you a lot of consequences and things that happen from neglecting. It has, but we'll be here all day. But I just wanted to show you how now I understand what it is. I do. I understand what it is. And I hope that you are able to understand what I'm talking about right now. Because like I said, we can talk about neglect all day. And I've seen it in real time with my mom. And I've seen it in real time with me, with my anxiety. And that's the very first thing. That's one of the biggest things with it, of me neglecting self-care, was with my anxiety. Yeah, with my anxiety. And that's something that I wouldn't wish on anybody, because it truly feels like you're dying, and you're not, but you are. It's like you just have a out of body experience. Now I know how to handle that better. I know how to handle it better now. I do. I know how to handle it better. So it's so important to be able to prioritize your self-care. I cannot say that enough. I cannot. I just can't. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about this. Because it's needed. is needed. And we're going to bring Dr. Will in here. And we're going to have some questions for him. Yes. Because he needs to help us out. He needs to help us to balance this, right? Yes. All right, it's your girl, you got us, Nyomi Banks, here on this season of Self-Love Podcast. And we will be right back.
Welcome to the Season of Self-Love Podcast with Naomi Banks, where every day is a chance to embrace self-discovery and personal growth. Join Naomi on a transformative journey, streaming exclusively on Spotify and Breaker. With daily episodes from Monday through Friday, podcast is your daily dose of inspiration, motivation, and self-love. Dive deep into engaging conversations about self-care, mindfulness, and personal development. Naomi brings you expert insights, practical tips, and uplifting stories from thought leaders in the field. Embark on a journey of self-discovery and unlock the power of self-love. Mark your calendars and tune in to the Season of Self-Love podcast. Available every weekday on Spotify and Spreaker. Remember, it's time to prioritize yourself and embrace the beautiful season of self-love. Get inspired and join Naomi Banks on the Season of Self-Love podcast.
Hi, I'm Dr. William C. Washington, aka Dr. Will, your friendly neighborhood counselor. One of the biggest things that I want to tell you about is that I'm a health psychologist, a licensed professional clinical counselor supervisor, an MDMA-assisted therapist, a ketamine-assisted therapist, a psychedelic integration prep specialist. I'm a researcher, a mentor, a supervisor, and also an artist. One of the biggest things about Washington Wellness Institute is that I created this to modernize the way that we look into the world. And I hate to say it, but we're finally getting rid of the old ways of thinking. I want to bring in the silver age of psychology. And to do that, I've even created a model called restorative enhancement modality that focuses on motive and purpose to make healing a lifestyle. I want to offer this to you. I want to offer this to the world and to anyone that's ready to learn. So, if you're ready, sign up today. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, welcome back. It's your girl, Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on this season of Self-Love Podcast. And today we're talking about prioritizing self-care while pursuing dominance. And as I told you, Dr. Will is coming in and he's going to help us get a little deeper in this conversation. And he's going to show us how to balance it. He's going to give us, because you know I got the questions for him, right? All right, so here we are, Dr. Will. All right, here we go. All right, Dr. Will, let's dive deeper into this topic. So what strategies can our listener adopt and ensure that they're not sacrificing while being on the altar of ambition?
Two things. One, maintenance. Two, checkpoints. You have to understand that in the direction that you're going, you have to do your maintenance. A lot of times we run ourselves so much that we never actually check our own systems. And then we wonder why the product is not truly of the fruit we put in and all the work we've put out. And so maintenance is a really great way to learn how to value yourself while you're going through the process. And then checkpoints. This is where self-care comes in. And your checkpoints, those should be reminders of your worth, of your time, and of your investments. Because a lot of times our checkpoints are reminders and alignment tools to make sure that our paths are set up for the proper dominance. You can dominate the wrong stuff, right? And it ends up dominating you. And so you got to really understand what attachments are you creating during this maintenance phase, and then the pause during the checkpoints. So you pause during the checkpoints. You don't stop, but you pause. And so give yourself a reason that's exciting to pause for. A lot of us don't feel like we should pause because, oh, if I mess up, then they're going to pass me, or I'm not going to get there far enough. Don't worry about that. Worry about the maintenance of yourself and the checkpoints that are worthy for you to pause.
That's beautifully said. And let me tell you why, because I believe that is something that we all go through on a daily basis. That's one of our daily struggles of going through that and doing that. And actually, another one of the questions, I think you're answering part of that question even within this first question that you just did. But how can you strike a balance between prioritizing your self-care and maintaining your pursuit of dominance in
Mm.
your field?
Yeah, I think that's actually a really hard question because we talk about prioritizing self care. Well, a lot of us have learned that self care isn't a priority, and so you have to understand, why do you need self care? Why do you think you deserve self care? Why don't you think you deserve self care? And who has taught you self care? And what are examples that you've learned from? Many times we talk about self care, people are like, go get a bubble bath, scrub your body. It's like, that's 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 grooming. That's not self care. That's hygiene. That's not self care. What's the intention behind prioritizing your self care?
Yeah.
So we got to start with that one before we step into what self care is really doing for us. Because you know, just sitting back and smoking, but then not doing anything, that's technically self care.
Yeah.
Or is that you becoming still
Yeah.
or stuck? So like, we got to make sure that when we're doing things, it's because we know why.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us never really focus on the why of that prioritization.
Yeah. The funny thing is that when I thought about this topic and why I thought it was very important to do this, because as I mentioned before, with the podcast, it's more of peeling the layers and really getting to the root of everything and really breaking down what self-care is. This is one of the first shows that we did
Mm,
for a month is about self-care and how we do the self-care routine. And, we even did a challenge, on it for a whole 30 days.
wow.
But when I was doing an outline and everything a few days ago, and I had to go back to my mom because that is a part of my foundation. And when I look at how driven she is as a woman in her career, and I also look that she really never did self-care. So in my mind, I really never knew what self-care was or how to do it. What I've learned from her was more of um, grind, or be persistent in what you're doing. That's something that I learned.
Mm,
Yeah. And just the other day we had to go to the neurologist for her to have, and sitting there with her and the doctor. And she was trying her best to seem normal as possible, but the doctor knew what was going up. And so she had told her that you need to, do at least a 10-minute walk around a park or something like this. And she was like, I don't need to go to the park.
wow. Yeah.
And she was like, no, she's like, I'm just tired. I don't want to work anymore. I just want to watch TV. That's all I want to do.
I
That's all.
wonder.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
all I want to do. And so she was, saying to her, and I spoke about this on Monday's show, is that she was saying that it gives you a different perspective. So it is able to open your mind. When you're going and walking in a park and you can kind of be into your own stillness. You know what I mean? Walk
Yeah.
to help you to balance and knowing what self-care is. Because for her, self-care is, as you say, the bubble bath. Those things are the grooming. And it's be having the mindfulness, be able to meditate, be able to
Hmm.
take a moment and be still. And that's
Exactly.
something that I've been learning and really actively doing now, is being still and be in a moment. So when you say about, we truly have to understand what self-care is before anything else, you are right. You are
Mm,
totally correct. And so for you, what practices would you give for someone that really, like, let's break it down. So where do we start
yeah.
at? Where can they start from?
Yeah. Two words: reset and rest. RESET. Remember, remove every saturation, embrace truth. You have to be honest about what's not okay with you.
Mm,
You got to be honest about what's not okay with what you're doing for yourself, and what are you doing to yourself. So we got to reset that, remove the saturation, embrace the truth of what's really happening for you.
mhm,
Then you rest. Now, rest, they say that in liberation, resting is one of the most rebellious things a black woman can ever do. They say resting. And I tell some of my homegirls, I was like, I dare you to go rest tomorrow. Like, Will, I can't do that. I can't do. What are you talking about? I gotta do 10 things and get my and learn something. It's like, no, I dare you to rest today for 4 hours nonstop. Like, but what would happen if you did, right? And so the first thing is understand the reset, remove the saturation,
Mm-hmm.
go rest, and when you're done resting, have the reality check. I
Mm-hmm.
need this more in my life.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about all that time? What didn't you think about? What were you supposed to be thinking about? Understand. So it's that reset, rest, and the reality check. What are you really checking in on? What do you realize that you need? I'm telling you, if you take 4 hours to yourself to do nothing, think about what you become.
Mm.
You just made space for yourself.
Yeah.
So that's what I was the 3 hours for me. That would be my first way to address that. And what I've learned through mine, music is a big thing for me. Playing music and not posting it. I play
Mm-hmm.
a lot, right? I don't post it. I learn a new instrument. I learn a new language, and I do a lot of hands-on, crafty things. I do things outside of that to get outside of my body.
Yeah.
And so I also do martial arts. So it's one of those things where I try to get out of my body because I'm still in my body because I internalize and hear and think and process everything. So I'm learning how to have a better mind and body relationship because I used to be so mind and heart. Now I'm learning how to be mind and body so I can balance that out right now.
Yeah. You know that I like that answer, and I like the. It was something that you said that really hit home, and it's about Black women and how
Mm.
we really never think that we can take a moment to rest. And it's rooted, and let me tell you where it's rooted in. It's rooted in
Mm.
that we have always felt that we were the lowest of the totem pole and that we had to work just as hard as anyone. I remember my freshman year in college, and I remember having this conversation in class, and we were talking about minorities. And I remember saying that I was a double minority. Not only was I Black, but I was a woman. And I remember having this discussion with this young man, and he was like, how are you? You're a woman, you can get anything you want. Like, no, that's not true. Like, I definitely have to work harder, not only being a woman to prove that I am strong enough, I'm smart enough, that I'm not using my looks or my sex appeal to be able to get this part, but that I'm worthy for this, as well as being
Mhm.
that I am, again, that I am smart enough, that I am worthy enough. And so not only do I have to battle with white society, but I also have to battle with male counterparts. And let me
Yes.
say this, and this is the truest thing, even with females, because for some reason females feel like that we have to continuously to be on the all feminine, on the feminine
Oh
spectrum,
wow.
that we can never have that once we go into the masculinity. And this is before I even knew anything about balancing. You understand what I'm saying?
Wow.
So once you get there, so those are fights that especially Black women that we do have to do. Because if you go
Mhm.
back and look in ancestral wise, Black women has carried not only Black families, but white families too.
Yes. Yes. And that psychological entanglement,
Yeah. Mm.
it,
Mhm.
it is it is so it's a vine with thorns. And as you pull each vine off, there's holes and there are things that have to be filled. And if there aren't the resources to give, to accommodate and tend to those wounds, there are wounds that Black women have that they never even they're born with. That
Yeah.
they have to realize that, oh, I have to fix this,
Hmm.
right? And before they even get a chance to fix it, there's already people putting things already over it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and so that's why, like, when I do my retreats with I do Black women retreats and I work with them, it's amazing to just be like, okay, it's rest time, and I just see them trying to rest, and I make the space nice for them to rest, and they can't do it for the first 25 minutes. It's rough. Like, I'm like, everybody be quiet, everybody sit down, everybody have a grape, and like it's just like it's hard to force them, but once it happens, the silence is so loud. That silence
Mhm.
is just so loud,
Mhm.
and it's therapeutic as a Black man to see Black women resting, and it makes me think, I never want to disrupt that.
Yeah.
Why would I want to disrupt that? So that self-care has to be enforced, has to be instilled, and has to be disciplined. And so you have to reset, you have to rest, and then have that reality check. You have to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's good. I like that. I like that. And I like that. That hit for me. I'm gonna have to write. Didn't I say that before? I had to write that down. Where are you supposed to send that to me? You were supposed to send that to me.
I think I was like, ooh, my bad. I've been sending you things. I just, it's all affirmations. I'll send educations too. I send affirmations. I'll be sending educations too now. You're gonna get both.
Yeah, I
I
need
got
them
you.
both. I need them both. I know
I
some
got
people,
you.
but I'm my mind wide open.
I got you. I'm gonna send you some stuff now. Don't you come back with questions though. Don't you come back with questions because I know you because you make good questions.
You said
I'm
don't
sitting
come
here
back with
texting
questions.
who? I was like, let me think about this.
Oh yeah, because I'm a wide type of person. Well, why is it like? Yeah, seriously.
Mm.
Wow. All right. So here's another one. What strategies can you implement to ensure that you are dedicated to self-care that enhances rather than hinders your path toward dominance?
Mm. So the O word, organize, organize, organize. You have to organize self care. You cannot assume that just because you're living good doesn't mean you don't do self care. I do self care on good days. I do them on bad days. I do them on normal days. I put them in my schedule. I know at 6:15 a.m. I'm going to wake up and say everything I'm grateful for before I get out of my bed out loud. I say it out loud. I do it every. I know I'm going to wake up at that time. I put it on every single day. I make sure that I have times where I have to stop and do the work, right? You have to do the work. And so for me, I put alarms about everything. Hey, make sure you call somebody and tell them you're thankful for them. Hey, call and text and let them know that you're thinking of them. Because the truth is that intentionality is how you push that boulder up the rock, up the mountain. So it's really important to understand like you have to organize self-care in a schedule. You don't do it when it's convenient, when it's familiar, if you see somebody else like no. Even when you're crying and you're having a bad day, do the self care.
Right.
I don't feel it. It's okay. Just do it anyway. Because what you're doing is you're giving your body the chance to breathe and to remind how important it is to go through that hard part in your life. So that's just you have to organize, 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 organize. You have to. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. All right, well, Dr. Will, well, thank you so much because you always have these good answers to the question. But I'm going to continue with this conversation on. But you have a great day, all right?
Of course, be kind to yourself.
Thank you.
Hey, it's your girl D Goddess Naomi Banks, and make sure you tune in every Thursday night to Ask Naomi Bridging the Gap podcast, where we talk about everything from love, sex, relationship, cultural differences, and so much more. We're bridging the gap between them all, and we even talk about spiritual uplifting. You need to stop by me and Dr. Mike, as well as the BTG crew. We have some amazing guests that come through. You never know. Just make sure you tune in Thursday night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Go to asknaomi.com and tell them Naomi sent you.
All right, my beautiful people. Well, I hope that you were able to just get into this conversation today. And again, I thank you, Dr. Will, for joining us. All right, so as we wrap up today's episode, I hope that it's clear that your journey to dominance doesn't have to come at the cost of our well-being. And again, Dr. Will, thank you. And to our listeners, I want to thank you for joining us today. I want you to reflect on your daily practices and consider how you can better balance your ambition with self-care. So tune in next time for a more empowering discussion here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Naomi Banks. So until then, remember to love yourself, prioritize your well-being, and embrace the journey to become your best self. Have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Season of Self-Love podcast. If you have any questions or would like to connect with us, you can follow us on social media. Just search for the Season of Self-Love on Instagram. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to email us at elevateme9999@gmail.com.
And remember, you are worthy of love, growth, and happiness. So keep shining bright, and I'll see you tomorrow for another episode of the Season of Self-Love. Be good to one another and yourselves, and always keep it sexy. Send the light, love, and prayers.